All right, so I'm talking about, what was that book called again? What Your Grandparents Ate. You Are What Your Grandparents Ate. So it's a very good book to get ideas from. It's not a great book to think that it's all factual. I don't know that it is. It's some great ideas, and there's probably a lot of truth to you are what your grandparents, what their grandparents, because there's genetic mutations and whatever. But I'd have to actually look at the sources at the back of the book myself to know, did this person, that can stay down, and that can stay down. So we're not talking about those anymore. So I found one part where the author had made a mistake. So I need to look up everything. It was about Roundup.
Yeah, you mentioned that yesterday, but you might want to review it for people.
Well, yeah, she said Roundup sprayed on large grassy spaces like golf courses. It's not. It is never sprayed on large grassy spaces like golf courses, or that person lost their job. That's what I had to say about that.
Well, unless they're starting the grass over again. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, because it's going to kill the grass.
They'll just whack it dead.
It's a non-selective herbicide. So there are some plants that have been genetically modified so that they are tolerant of Roundup, but not on golf courses. So anyway, 92, liver helps detoxify body, so you can poo and pee it out. Phase 1, detox uses the cytochrome P450 genes. Your liver makes fat-soluble toxins, water-soluble, genetic variations in the CP450 enzyme, genetic variations. System can influence how you metabolize certain compounds. Caffeine is metabolized primarily through the CYPIA2 gene during phase detox and secondarily through the acetylation pathway in phase 2. Efficient phase 1 detox requires adequate nutrition, including the antioxidant glutathione and quercetin and B vitamins. Phase 2 detox involves the conjugation pathways, methylation, sulfation, acetylation, glucuronidation, amino acid conjunction, or glutathione conjunction. These pathways neutralize toxins for excretions, and people have single nucleotide polymorphisms, SNPs, in their DNA that undermine the process. 101. Older fathers over 45 are 14% more likely to produce babies born prematurely and have low birth weight. Mother of old dad baby is 28% more likely to develop gestational diabetes. Old dads are more likely to produce kids with neurological disorders such as schizophrenia and autism. And I had no idea about that. I'd always thought, well, men can reproduce forever. You could have some 100-year-old man contribute some sperm to the operation and kaboom, baby. And too bad for old women because they don't have that same luxury, but apparently. Anyway, when young boys overindulged in food just before puberty, their grandsons were more likely to die young. If father eats low-protein diet, offspring increase risk of hypertension. When male rats eat high-fat diet, female offspring suffer from early onset impaired insulin secretion and glucose intolerant. Low-protein diet sperm is hypomethylated. Offspring get metabolic syndrome, non-alcoholic fatty liver disease, including glucose tolerance and altered gut bacterial profiles. Obese dad, likely obese offspring. Alcohol drinking dad at conception, offspring increased risk for behavioral problems such as ADHD or poor school performance. Smoking dad, increased risk of offspring cancer. 107. Low levels of thyroid hormone can interfere with the release of eggs from ovary, which impairs fertility. Congenital hypothyroidism occurs with newborn doesn't produce enough thyroid hormone. These babies are have permanent intellectual disabilities. All newborns screened at birth for this in developed countries. 130. Women who breastfed at least 6 months were 52% less likely to develop non-alcoholic fatty liver disease. 141. When pregnant women take probiotics, their offspring are less likely to be allergic. This is also true of those who consume fish oil. Children who ate whole grains were 54% less likely to develop asthma. 143, child's brain burns 20% of their caloric intake. 158, menstruation that starts at age 11 or earlier is defined as early menarche, which is a risk factor for diseases including heart disease, stroke, and breast cancer. Early menarche has also been associated with depression in adolescence and developmental issues in offspring. I had depression in adolescence, and my period started at age 10. And I definitely am going to have a heart attack at some point. I can't see not having one. 165. Over the past 40 years, the number of obese children between age 4 and 19 has increased by a factor of 10. 169. Research done on over 20 single genes related to obesity. SNPs in the FTO gene. Adults with variants of this gene tend to be 8 to 10 pounds heavier than normal. 172. The TRIM28 gene and protein is an obesity gene. Leptin stimulates the brain to produce a hormone that makes you feel less hungry, and it suppresses hormones that make you feel less hungry. Leptin is produced in fat cells, but overweight people have leptin resistance. Leptin resistance slows down metabolism, which interferes with muscles. Do you want to try this?
No. I don't like chocolate.
Okay. Which interferes with your muscle's ability to use glucose and fat as energy. Fat builds up in muscle tissue and promotes insulin resistance. Leptin miscommunication can trigger chronic inflammation. Too much or too little nutrition in utero can increase circulating leptin later in life. 173. Leptin is also a risk factor for non-alcoholic fatty liver disease. Supplementing with 3,000 milligrams of turmeric daily for 12 weeks decreases serum leptin levels. Probiotics, prebiotics, recommended weight loss and increased physical activity also help leptin levels. Arachidonic acid, O6 fatty acid, increased risk of leptin resistance. It also linked to chronic inflammation. Vegetable oils such as sunflower, safflower, cottonseed, and soybean, and animal foods such as eggs, poultry, and beef can increase that AA levels. 178. Foods that protect against fatty liver disease. Omega-3 fatty acid, vitamin E, almond, spinach, sweet potato, avocado, Swiss chard, sunflower seeds, wheat germ, choline, egg, beef liver, salmon, shrimp, chicken, peanut, cruciferous vegetables. Coffee is also beneficial. Avoid sugar, refined carbs, alcohol, and acetaminophen, Tylenol. Maintain healthy weight and increase physical activity. 194. Vegetarian or vegan diets are worth strongly considering for people with diabetes. Genistein, a bioactive component of soy, has been shown to have an anti-diabetic effect through its actions on pancreatic beta cells. 195. Supplements for diabetics. 1,000 milligrams flaxseed oil, 1,000 milligrams fish oil with 180 milligrams EPA and 120 milligrams DHA 2 times a day. 250 milligrams magnesium oxide take daily for 6 weeks by women with gestational diabetes. 100 milligrams CoQ10 taken daily for 12 weeks by women with polycystic ovarian syndrome, which is characterized by insulin resistance. Probiotics, prebiotics, fiber-rich foods, vitamin D. 199. A woman's nutritional status during pregnancy is a significant factor in whether her offspring are prone to developing hypertension. In a paper linking maternal nutrition, a low nephron count, and adult hypertension, Dr. Susan Bagby wrote that as the year 2000, more than 80 publications had linked low birth weight with a higher incidence of hypertension later in life. If there aren't enough nutrients to sustain robust development, a fetus will develop an inadequate number of filtering units called nephrons. Fewer nephrons and smaller kidneys are not in themselves problematic. The baby is smaller. Poor nutrition in utero alters the baby metabolism. Enhanced appetite and accelerated early growth are likely results of this nutritional programming. So, not only is the child's kidney function less than ideal, but they're likely to have a larger body mass, which puts further pressure on the kidneys. Children whose BMI increase rapidly between ages 3 and 15 were most vulnerable to developing hypertension as adults. If you're cold, you need to go in. 201. Low birth weight below 6 to 7 pounds make a person more salt sensitive. 203. The portfolio diet, vegetarian, more effective than DASH diet for lowering blood pressure. Also Mediterranean is good. 205. Dutch hunger winter data. Those pregnant at at that time had children 2 times as likely to develop heart disease. Those who weighed 5 pounds at birth were 3 to 5 times more likely to develop cardiovascular disease than those who weighed 9 pounds. Page 206. 2009 American Journal of Epidemiology study, people who grew up in an economically deprived circumstances were 82% more likely to develop heart disease than those from more prosperous backgrounds. They were 2 times as likely to develop cardiovascular disease before age 50. Approximately 60 SNPs are commonly linked with risk for cardiovascular disease. 200 widespread genetic variations in people of European ancestry work together to predict risk for cardiovascular disease. Page 209. Apolipoprotein E gene variants tend to absorb more dietary cholesterol and have higher LDL levels. Girls who began to menstruate before age 12 were 5% more likely to develop coronary heart disease, 10% more likely to suffer from CVD, cardiovascular disease, and 17% more likely to have a stroke. Women who have had 3+ miscarriages were more than twice as likely to develop heart disease. Those who have obstetric complications, including preeclampsia and gestational diabetes, are more likely to suffer cardiovascular disease. Early menopause before age 47, I'm going into peri right now, I'm age 44, also increased cardiovascular disease risk. 210. Breastfeeding has a preventative effect in warding off cardiovascular disease. It reduced risk by approximately 10%. The longer they breastfed, the greater the reduction in risk. 212. C-reactive protein is a substance produced by the liver that rises in response to inflammation. Atherosclerosis has been described as a chronic inflammatory and immune disease. Infections, a common cause of elevated CRP, may promote, if not actually cause, atherosclerosis. Bacterial DNA has been detected in plaques. 213. Antibiotics don't prevent CVD. Specific probiotics such as Lactobacillus reuteri reduces inflammation. 215. When cortisol levels remain elevated because of chronic stress, immune receptors become less sensitive to the hormone, reducing its ability to control inflammation. Chronic exposure to stress changes gene expression in immune cells, making them more pro-inflammatory. 218. Atrial fibrillation, AFib, an erratic heartbeat, is linked to obese mothers' offspring 35% more likely to develop AFib. Exposure to secondhand smoke increase immune cells secrete increase the risk. Immune cells secrete certain substances that have been linked to arrhythmias. In 2017, scientists reported that macrophages, a type of white blood cell known for fighting off infections, help your heart to beat regularly. Triggers for AFib are alcohol, stress, food sensitivity, electrolyte imbalances, and exposure to toxins. 219. Tyramine, in aged and fermented foods like cheddar, blue cheese, sauerkraut, and soy sauce, have been linked with AFib and migraines. MSG and aspartame can trigger AFib. Unbalanced microbiome can trigger AFib. 220. Histamine intolerance linked with AFib. 227. Tetrahymena, surface pond algae, has an abundance of telomeres. Telomeres live at the ends of chromosomes and protect them, helping to keep them stable during the process of replication. Every time a cell divides, the telomeres tend to shorten a bit. Their length and the rate of shortening are linked to aging. The tetrahymenas telomeres don't shorten when its cells divide. Tetrahymena have the ability to produce an enzyme that prevents the telomere ends from shortening, telomerase. Telomerase synthesizes and adds a new segment of DNA with each division to make up for the segment lost to prevent the chromosome from aging. 228. Children with low birth weight are more likely to have shorter telomeres. 232. African American men are 70% more likely to develop prostate cancer than Caucasian or Hispanic. In 2015, African Americans were 14% more likely to die from cancer than white people. 238. Some of the most effective cancer-fighting foods and compounds include cruciferous vegetables, carotenoids, polyphenols, and isoflavones. 239. Higher intakes of lycopene lower risk of prostate cancer. Polyphenols are found in green tea, turmeric, red wine, soybeans. They alter epigenome of cancer by inhibiting DNA methylation. EGCG, catechin in green tea, inhibits the activity of the gene DNMT, which codes for a protein that regulates DNA methylation. Curcumin, turmeric, also inhibits DNMT activity. Resveratrol in red wine, grapes, blueberries, raspberries, decreased growth of several cancers. 246. During and after menopause, estrogen levels drop significantly, and that hormone plays a crucial role in supporting osteoblasts, which create new bone. 249. People with low birth weight tend to have low muscle mass throughout their lives. More muscle at birth means better glucose control as an adult. 250. Adults over 50 need more dietary protein than younger people. Current recommendations are 0.8 grams per kilogram body weight. That's 54 grams of protein per day for a 150-pound adult. Adults over 50 should consume 1 to 1.5 grams per kilogram body weight. So that's 68 to 102 grams of protein a day for a 150-pound person. 257. High levels of homocysteine, an amino acid produced by the body linked with heart disease, stroke, dementia. Supplement with B2, B6, B12, folic acid to reduce homocysteine. 266. Number of people, no two people, even identical twins, have identical microbiomes. 267. Breast milk provides as many as 600 species of beneficial bacteria. 2017 JAMA Pediatrics Journal, babies get almost 30% of their gut bacteria from breast milk and 10% from skin contact with the breast. Your microbiome grew rapidly until you were age 3, and then it stabilized. So that tells me that maybe you should be breastfeeding until your baby is 3. 3. That's what I'm thinking. 268. 43% of the body is human cells. The rest is microbiota. Microbes on our skin produce different chemicals that mosquitoes can detect. The insects find some more appealing than others. 269. 70% of your immune system is in your gut. 271. Endotoxin inhabits certain types of bacterial cells. Sometimes endotoxin leaks into bloodstream. So long as it remains in the bacteria's cell wall, it's harmless. When it is in your bloodstream, it provides inflammation. Endotoxins tamed by anti-inflammatory orange. 276. Gut bacteria can produce neurotransmitters such as serotonin, dopamine, norepinephrine, GABA, so that's gamma aminobutyric acid. I highly recommend it. And acetylcholine. When gut bacteria digest certain foods, short-chain fatty acids are produced. 283. Polyphenols can help increase O3 in body and decrease O6, so that's omega. Converting ALA to EPA and DHA is inefficient, as low as 8% from plant foods. But when beneficial bacteria digest polyphenols, they produce new biologically active chemicals that facilitate the conversion process. The 3 most significant short-chain fatty acids are acetate, propionate, and butyrate. They make up 95% of your body's SCFA content. So if you're a vegetarian, you better be taking probiotics. Making sauerkraut, making kimchi. You got to do it. Because if your conversion process is low, you need those probiotics to help boost that up. Page 284. Butyrate supports the function of your regulatory T cells and helps prevent metabolic syndrome, may improve insulin sensitivity, and protects against colorectal cancer, possibly by inhibiting the activity of histone deacetylase. You might want to look that up because I don't know what that is. An enzyme that can promote cancer growth. 284. As many as 1,000 species of bacteria live in a healthy gut. 285. Fermenting food lowers the level of phytic acid in the digestive tract. So that's all I have from the notes. I'd highly recommend reading the book and then doing further research to confirm those things.